Hi folks, how are you doing? The fourth round of the Tata tournament 2014 is over, and we have 3 draws and 3 decisive results, 3 victories for white. Aronian beat Nakamura in what seems to be a blunder in the end game by the American player. In a very long game, once again, Dominguez won his game with white pieces. And once again, we're gonna see another victory here today, and a game involving Richard Rapport. It seems this young guy from Hungary is providing lots of excitement, lots of thrilling games to the tournament. In this case, he was playing black against Karjakin, and well, the result could be just anything, just any result could have happened during the game because it was very exciting. It was very unbalanced, but finally, Karjakin, the Russian GM. Came up with a win. So let us see the game. It was very interesting. E4 by Karjakin, E6. So Rapport playing all kinds of opening. Not really sure what his repertoire normally is, but as far as I see it, he's playing the Budapest Gambit, the Larsen opening, the French, all kinds of interesting and not conventional openings. Knight C3, Bishop B4, the main line, whenever. E5, C5, and after this typical capture, Queen C7 is played here, a multi-geometrical move which tries to control almost all the squares on the board. The queen is powerful in all directions, defending, attacking, etc. And really, in this position, there are tons of moves available for black. Knight C6, Knight E7, Queen A5. I don't know, lots of possibilities here for black. This is a very rich and a very cool position. And Queen C7 was played. Here the main move is Queen G4. Knight F3 is also possible, just simple and humble developing, but Queen G4 is the main move, very typical in these winners. When the bishop on F8 is not on the board already, so this G7 pawn is weak. The very typical way of protecting this pawn in this line, concretely, where the queen is on side C7, is to play F5. And here, well, white has a couple of possibilities. He can just simply retreat, keeping an eye here on G7. Now white takes. Well, this is a line. This is an interesting line. Also, after F5, white could play this check, making the black move this G6, which could be looking a little ugly, and then he goes back. Just this kind of positional things, positional moves, and really breaking all the classical rules of chess are very normal in lots of Wiener and French defense positions, as it is very important, just a little detail. And also, well, he of course has the option of capturing, which doesn't seem to be the best because the knight attacks. The knight takes with the tempo, attacks the queen. The G7 pawn is still protecting, and black has a really great position. He will play knight C7, short castle, bishop D7, and definitely I would pick up black here. But anyway, this did not happen. We had Queen G4 and F6, also playable, also known to be played, but much less common. Knight F3, defending in E5, C4. Now this is closing the center. This is the decision most Wiener French players have to take almost in every game, to play C4 or not to play C4, closing the queen side, leaving white with these weak pawns, doubled pawns on the C file, but not having anymore this counterplay on the queen side, just centering the game on the center, on the king side. This is sometimes wrong, sometimes correct, but this is it is the most played move in this position, so Rapport, I guess, knew it very well. And here a couple of approaches, bishop e2 for instance, trying to just castle and getting developed simply, and h4. Once again, typical move in these French positions, when h4, h5, h6 sometimes is the only thing white can do against a blocked position. Here knight c6, lots of putting lots of fire on this e5 pawn. Queen g3, also bishop f4 I think was possible to protect. Queen g3, now if takes, and according to my database, this would be the novelty of the game. There is another game played between much lower rated players when Queen f7 was played, and White ended up winning this game. But anyway, f takes, so it seems reasonable. Now Knight took, and now this allows the disappearance of this e5 pawn. This e5 white pawn allows Black to play Knight f6. Here it seems Bishop f4 was played, setting up this pin and this possible discovered attack, and this is a key moment of the game. It seems that Black had a much better move than what Richard Rapport played. He played Queen a5, just getting away from the pin. Not a bad move, but certainly it created him some problems with some reason. The other very interesting and seems to be better move was Knight h5, attacking both this knight and the bishop and the queen on the dark squares. And the point was that after Knight takes e6, taking the knight and attacking the queen, Black could take with the queen, and now the queen has white queen has no other chance just to get away. g7 is protected by the knight, so say Queen g5, he takes with the knight, takes f4, and while Black could play easily Rook f8, Queen g4, and Queen c7, once again defending g7, and Black is in no danger absolutely, because only thing White has developed is the queen. Okay, it's an interesting position. Although his king is still in the center and he's probably going to be in the center for a long time, but okay, this is a very decent position for Black. Instead, Queen a5, it seems, is getting in a little bit of trouble for Black, because dark squares are very weak. After Knight takes c6, he takes c6. Now White will try to get in through the dark squares. Bishop c7, Queen a4, now attacking on c2. This is very typical in a concrete variation with Queen a5 on the fifth move, I think, of the Whenever, when after the captures Black plays Queen a5 and Queen a4. Very old line, but Rapport uses this idea in this concrete position. And here yet another very critical moment in the game. Karjakin thought for a while here and played a move which is sometimes very typical in the Whenever poisoned pawn variation, when Queen g7, Knight Queen takes g7, Rook g8, etc. happens. King d1 is the move, defending on c2. This is, as I said, sometimes very useful and very almost the only move you have against the counter-attack of Black on the queen side. But in these concrete positions, once again, it seems that Karjakin missed a much better move, meaning take on g7. It's certainly unclear, but of course, having an engine in front, it's easier to say that this was a better move, so that's why I'm here. Rook f8. Now there might be a little threat of going Rook f7 and threatening both queen and bishop, but that's not dangerous. Now Bishop e2 is okay to developing the piece and having this diagonal available. Now the best move for Black, it seems, is to take on the pawn on c2 and threaten just to capture c3, forking, etc., winning the game. Rook f7 doesn't seem to be that great. Now Queen g5. If Black takes on c7, White will do the same on f6, taking the knight. And now he has the extra option of checking on h5 with the bishop. Now White's position seems really cool. Otherwise, after Queen takes c2, now Queen g3, protecting on c3. And well, a couple of options here. Probably the best, Rook f7, just attacking the bishop. Bishop a5, giving extra protection to the pawn on c3, and as soon as White is able to castle and get in a reasonable position with this bishop on e2, he will have a much better position, I think. Instead, Rook g8 may seem a little bit tempting here, but of course, after a quick glance, we can see that Bishop h5 check, and now this is losing for Black, because obviously you cannot take on h5, g8 is hanging, and otherwise Rook g6 is giving up the exchange. So this was a very interesting alternative that Sergei Karjakin had, taking on g7 on this 15th move. But anyway, he went for this king d1. Certainly not a blunder, not that bad move, but still keeps the position very unclear, very double-edged. Now it allows black to play a short castle, getting his king into security. And now there is the threat to go with the knight to this extremely strong square of e4, attacking f2 as combined with the rook, attacking the queen, attacking the pawn on c3, lots of threats. So there are a couple of ways to stop this. Karjakin chose f3, defending these squares. Bishop e5 seems to be even better because it's blocking this sorry, e6 pawn, so this bishop won't be able to get out, as we will see in the game. So don't you forget that well, now g7 is under attack, so knight e4 cannot be played. This is checkmate. So f3 was played here, and after this e5, a very interesting pawn sacrifice, very similar to the one played by Wesley so against Rapport in the first round to get lots of activity. Now bishop takes e5, what else? And now the bishop goes to f5. Black has sacrificed a pawn to open lines, to develop his position, to create lots of initiative. Well, at least some initiative, worth it. Definitely the sacrifice was worth it. So the attack is now on c2. Rook a2 seems the only move, because rook c1 would hang the a3 pawn, and well, doesn't seem that great. The c3 would be hanging next. And now black has a couple of dreams, a couple of ideas. Now his best idea would be to play the rook to b8, to go to b1 and create lots of problems. But unfortunately the bishop on d5 is guarding that square. So an idea of his would be to play knight d7 to get rid of this bishop. But once again, unfortunately, knight d7 would allow white, as we see with that nice red arrow, to checkmate black in one move. So first he plays this move rook f7, protecting g7. Now he will be able to play knight d7. Bishop e2, developing pieces, and now knight d7. There it goes. Rook e1. White finally is developing pieces, although his coordination is questionable and his king is placed a little bit weird, not that great. Now rook e8 was played, seems reasonable, but because taking on the spot, queen could take, and this b8 square is still not available. But okay, still black could play some reasonable moves, having not a better position, not a winning one at all, but more or less a roughly equal position. Queen b5, trying to control the b1 square with some threats, some obvious and basic threats. King d2 and rook af8, for instance, doubling rooks. Now g4, bishop d7, and well, there are weaknesses in both flanks. Both players have their weaknesses, have their problems, but it seems neither player has the coordination even enough to attack seriously. So well, more or less blocked position here. Instead, rook e8 was played, and now f4, just strengthening that e5 square, the bishop. Knight f6, with the idea to go bishop knight f4, taking might be better. Now rook b7, trying once again to dominate this b file, get into king d2 and queen a5. Now the pawn on c3 is pinned, and d4 could be an idea, for instance. Instead, knight f6 was played by Rapport, and now of course bishop f3 to protect that e4 square. Knight e4, bishop takes, h5, h6, and now white is better, because he has finally concluded his development. He has some coordination. This g7 point is still a target, still a threat, and it doesn't seem that black has that much in return. King d2, now queen b5, correct move, just to control this b file, preventing rook b1, for instance. a4, queen b7, a5, grabbing space. There is nothing that much to do other than grabbing space in somewhere. a6, Queen g4, not really sure why. This is one of the moves I don't understand from the game. Queen a7, this is the second move I don't understand at all, because you've been fighting for this b file for a long time now. You just give it up to attack a pawn which is protected by the bishop and the pawn. I just don't see what else this move does, really. But of course they are GMs, they know tons of chess, much more than I do. Rook b2, now white takes the open file. Bishop f5, attacking the queen. Queen goes back, and queen e7. Here rook b6 was played, attacking both pawns. Seems logical, but it seems white had a really nice tactical chance here, playing bishop d6, attacking with the bishop the queen, and also with the queen and with the rook. And it seems, well, of course taking on d6 is not a great idea because you're losing the exchange easily. But the point is that after queen takes e1 check, queen takes, rook takes, white has this intermediate move, rook f8. There is no way of playing rook b8 check, for instance. Rook f8 is not possible because that would give up the rook in a silly way. So king h7, and now white takes on e1. Material is the same as the beginning of this little combination, but the point is that the black king is now much worse placed. It has no room now. It can't be checkmated right now, but it has no square to go. And white pieces are very, very well coordinated. He now controlling the 8th rank, and really white seems to have great opportunities here. But anyway, rook b6 also seems logical, attacking the weaknesses for once. Rook c8, rook eb1, improving rook's position, improving coordination rather than going after a pawn on e6. Now queen a3, still trying to generate some counterplay, but now there is lots of coordination for white. White finally has tons of coordination, a good position. He plays a strong move, rook b7. Don't forget that this g7 pawn is still a threat. Of course, taking on a5, the pawn is hanging there, but doesn't seem that great as the game is going to finish very soon. Rook takes, queen takes, and this leads to very quick disaster. So black Richard Rapport tries to create his own counterplay here. Queen a4, once again attacking this c2 pawn. As we can see, this doubled and blocked pawn from the very beginning, from the very opening. In this, we never have has given black lots of chances of counterplay. But there is, well, resources to defend. Rook 1 to b2. Of course, you may say, well, I can take on b7. You have to take on b7, and that's true. But it seems that black gets in. Although black gets in with what seems to be a dangerous attack, white is able to survive, and his own attack is going to be decisive. Because now, for instance, there is no reasonable way to stop the checkmate on g7. White is attacking it with 3 pieces, and only the king is there just shivering. So queen c2 check is the only chance of black to get things under control, to create some counterplay. But white is able to survive. King e1, queen c1 check, king f2 check, king f1. Here Rapport decides to go into a queenless endgame, which is still losing for white. In fact, this is very bad for black. But he had another chance to keep checking and at least take a pawn with bishop d3 check. Now king g1, queen d1 check, king h2, and he would at least take this pawn on h5. Now queen h3, he would exchange. He still has a bad position. I mean, g7, it seems it is very difficult to save. He would have to play g6, but then all the 7th rank is under white's control. His king is very badly placed. His rook is not active at all. The bishop is a monster on e5, etc. But at least he would have won a pawn, and the position seems to be a little bit better than what it ended up to be in the game. This is what happened after king f1. Queen d3 was played. Now takes. And now g4, very strong move, asking question to this bishop. Of course, there are not very much. There are not much squares it can go. For instance, taking on g4 is losing on the spot. White is picking the bishop for free. It's probably worse to go to h7, check. And now black has to choose between being checkmated or losing a piece. King f8 is dropping the piece on h7, and king h8 is checkmating one. So bishop e4 is the most reasonable move, and now f5 was played. This is very strong move. This pawn on g7 is already lost, so you can consider this f pawn of white as already a passed pawn. So no hurry no rush of taking that g7 pawn. c5 trying to generate counterplay, something, whatever. Rook takes g7 check, king f8, of course. This, well, not this, but this is winning the rook on c8. And well, after king f8, f6 was played. This pawn is very strong. Rook c6, but after king e1, the king is more than enough near to this center to protect white from any kind of counterplay black could have. So at this point, move number 44, Rapport resigned. Very exciting game, definitely, at least in my opinion, the game of the day, the game of this fourth round, and very exciting, very thrilling game in which once again we see Richard Rapport. So hope you liked the video, hope we see more of these nice games. Thanks for watching.